So guys, all right, so I want to talk about my first mod. Uh, it's taken me a while to get to use a mod, only because from smoking I went to the Juul. Okay, if you are a smoker, do not go to a mod right away. Okay, it's a little much. I mean, it's a lot. It's hard to get into, and if you go to the mod, I did that so many times. I would go into these vape shops. They would sell me on these mods and this and that, this much power, this amount of. You don't need any of that. Okay, you're trying to get off of cigarettes. You want something very similar to a cigarette. The best thing, at least for me and for a lot of people I know, the Juul. Okay, Juul. Best thing. All right, from the Juul. Okay, because like I said, the mods put out a lot of vapor and it just winds up tearing you apart. And you just go back to cigarettes because it's just smoother. So you go to the Juul. I did a video on that on literally when I first tried the Juul and how I quit smoking. The next thing I did is I didn't like the flavors of the Juul. I didn't, well, the mango was the best for me. I really liked it. But then when I started trying to use different stuff, I started, different pens, different mods, whatever. I started using different flavors. And then when I went back over to the Juul, it was like, wow, these are really limited. So the next step up that I found closest to smoking and the next step of Juul, because it puts out a little bit more vapor than the Juul, is the Suorin drop. The Suorin drops don't last forever, so don't expect that it will. I did a couple videos on how to make it last a little longer, but when you're buying it, I found that this colorful one, um, it lasted me the longest. I've had it for a couple months now, and there's not a problem yet. Um, Also, on the inside of here, there's these two prongs. When you buy this thing, you want to look from the side, okay, and make sure those prongs are at the same height, because I found that if they're at different heights, you wind up having problems with the connectivity of these pods. Okay, like I said, this one I found to be the best one I've ever had. I haven't had any issues with it. If you try to push it left and right, it doesn't move. It's perfect. There's no wiggle room at all. Now, the next thing, now after this, I tried going to mods again, and for some reason in my head, I have this thing saying, um, more power, more this, more that, all these, the Cadillac, they try to sell you on all these things. Well, I got this right here. Okay, this right here is the battery is the iStick 40 watts. Okay, I don't know if you can see that iStick 40 watts, and it's made by Elif. Okay, it's all you need. You go to the vape shop. They have like 100 watts and 100 and whatever watts. If you're going from smoking to the Juul to the drop, you want to transition to a mod that's going to work for you, and not just like and then wind up taking you back. The tank here is the Nautilus Aspire 2. Okay, now I've had this for a while. I actually had it, put juice in it. I wound up doing a substitute for cigarettes to vaping, not just, vaping every once in a while. I'd kind of use it like a cigarette. So I like the Nick salts because I don't want to sit there and suck on this thing all day. Just like a cigarette, you go out, take a few drags. Please don't try to use this first. Go to the Juul. But like a cigarette, you go out, you take a few drags, and then you're good to go for a little while. Well, when you put regular salt in here or regular juice, the 6 milligrams for me at least, I wound up just dragging on this thing all day, and it was annoying. And then I've tried to put salt nick in here, and it was so harsh. I was just scratching my throat. So I put it back down and went back to the drop. Um, Recently, what I did is I tried using this again, and what I did is I took my drop I would take a drag out of it, and then I would take a drag out of this. Okay, a little harsh. And I was now the coils that come in this, that I think it's a 0.7 and a 1.8. I have a 1.8 coil in here. Okay, it's for salt mix. So I had it, and with the 1.8, you can only go up to like 13 watts. And I took a drag too harsh. And I looked up this. The max on this is 13, which is not putting out 13. So I lowered it to 12. Took a drag on it too harsh. I wound up going up down to 9 watts. I take a drag on this, take a drag on this, same feeling. All right, it was wonderful. But the problem was that now that I had an airflow, this has an airflow adjustment. You can turn it and expose more holes, which means more airflow. I take mouth to lung hits, so I want a little bit less airflow. If I was just dragging it straight into my lungs, I would want more airflow. With the salt nick, I want it to act almost like a cigarette. So I wound up putting it at 2.5, or right now it's at 2. And what I'm doing is I'm slowly upping the voltage. Well, slowly. It's been a few days, and I'm up to. I had at 9. Now I'm at 9.1. If I put it at 9.2, it's too harsh. I want to up it a little bit more, but I just can't. It just gets too harsh. So right now I'm at 9.1. It's been a few days, but this thing has been great. Um, the drop, the battery doesn't last all day. For me, this battery lasts all day going into the next day. The flavor is good. I don't lose flavor. A lot of the mods, when you get into these coils, you lose a lot of flavor for some reason, because the drop has a cotton wick, and for some reason, when you go to the coils, you kind of lose a lot of flavor. With this, you don't. I have it at 9 volts. It's just a little bit more vapor than or 9 watts. So it's just a little bit more vapor than the drop, but it's a lot more satisfying. Very happy right now. Another cool thing is that all you have to do is unscrew the top, lift it out, put the liquid in, and screw it back in. You don't make a mess. You're not, you know. So I am using Saltnik 1.8 coil, and the whole thing cost me like $60 for this mod. The only issue I don't like about this thing is that the charging ports are the bottom. All right, before we get done, I just want to show you something. Inside there, you'd see the coil. Now, if I go to turn it right now, you see that circle right there. See how the circle's staying? See, it hasn't moved. And this is where you fill. You just dump it in. Now, I got these gloves on because I'm getting ready to make a mess. I'm going to dump this into the container, and I'll be right back. Okay. So, this right here comes out. This is your coil. Now, the problem is, if you put this coil on hand tight, what happens is this coil has threads on the bottom, and then when you put this in, it actually threads into this. So, you put this in, screw it in as tight as you can with your hands. Then you take this, fill up your juice, and then you take this and screw it on. And then you're happy-go-lucky, you go throughout your day, no problems. But now you have to fill it up. All right, so you have to fill this thing up. All right, so I'm going to take the top off now. That is the problem. The coil stayed up there. Now, when that happens, all the juice that's not supposed to go down there goes down there, it starts leaking everywhere, and you make a big mess. Now, you only have to do the coil, once a week maybe. So what I do is I take the coil and I put it in. Then I take a pair of channel locks, very lightly hold it, and I make sure she's good and in. Okay, now if I go like this and then put this on, I put this on hand tight, and then when I take it off, the coil's gonna stay. I'm telling you, if you don't put that coil in there really tight the first time, you have problems. It's about the only problem you're gonna have. Alright, so this is Johnny's tips and tricks, and if this helped you out, hit the like button. That helps me out, and I hope this helps.